Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Around the Nation, right here. Jeff Waldorf here with you on this Thursday afternoon. We got a great show for you guys today. Election night. New York. I'll talk about that in a minute because that's fascinating. But if you're in New York, vote. We're going to need every vote possible. We're going to get some progressive candidates in New York. So before I get to that stuff, welcome, for one. We are doing a subscriber drive. We're trying to hit 100,000 subscribers. So if you're tuning in and you haven't subscribed before, but you're interested, it doesn't cost anything, doesn't hurt anything. Subscribe, help us get to 100,000. In fact, I'm going to get a count for you right now, which I probably should have had ready for you. But I am not that organized. So hold on for a second here while I pull that up. But yes, we are at 87,387. Kind of fell short of our goal of 87,400 by the end of yesterday. So we need more. Need more subscribers. Not only that, but hey, we're running a Patreon as well to support the channel. We have just about 304 patrons. I'd like to boost that up to 500. That would help, of course, our show continue to stay on the air as YouTube continues to mess with its algorithm and our views, and, of course, our majority of revenue. So, something that's been happening over the past couple of months, and then I thought that had went away, but now it's back. Algorithm changes that have basically made it so that our videos do not show up in the recommended feed or the suggested feed, right? So that's actually very, very important. That's how we get out to new people and get new subscribers, and that's actually a majority of our views. It doesn't come from, surprisingly, a majority of our views doesn't come from subscribers. It's somewhere around 80-20. 80% of our views come from non-subscribers, if you can believe it. But that's, look, that's actually generally the normal breakdown of what happens on YouTube. It's kind of a strange phenomenon. I don't quite understand it myself, but that's what happens. When we don't get in the suggested feed, we don't get out there, we don't get those views, and then, of course, everything else kind of falls apart after that. That's kind of a disaster for the channel, kind of a disaster for, you know, revenue, which of course I depend on to continue doing this show full time. So that's why we're asking for patreon.com/tytnation. We're going to be posting, for those of you who end up missing the stuff that's posted because it doesn't get into your feed, we're going to put it up on Patreon. In fact, I did that yesterday. It's in the free section, so I'm not putting anything behind a paywall. It's just a basically gathering up of the videos that I put that day. It's the roundup. So I'm going to put the roundup up every day on Patreon. That's patreon.com/tytnation. Even if you're not a patron, you can go and look at it. And you can access those videos for free because they're already on YouTube. It's just a place for you to gather. If you missed the show, it'll have a link to the live stream as well that we do earlier. So you can, if you like to watch it all at once, you can do that. And we are working on doing a podcast as well. Not a podcast of Around the Nation, but actually a podcast of me doing basically another show, but in podcast form. So I'm working on that too, which will allow me a little bit more freedom than doing it on video because of the format's a little different. So look out for that as well. I'm going to put that on Patreon, but also it will not be pay gated. So you can just get in there and you can watch it. And if you actually like our programming, if you feel like it's worth throwing in $1 or $3 a month, that's all we ask for. And if you can't give, that's absolutely fine. I don't expect people to give that don't have money. So if you don't have it, if it's going to hurt you at all, you know, if it's going to dip into your, you know, savings or whatever, money that you need, don't do it. Don't do it. But if you have a couple of extra bucks, that helps out. Okay. So anyway, please like the stream, share, subscribe, trying to get to that 100,000 mark. because that's what I need, man. Okay. Anyway, let's see. Let's go into New York first. Okay, so we got a primary happening in New York. We've got Zephyr Teachout running for Attorney General. We got Cynthia Nixon versus Andrew Cuomo. We've got, I want to get his name right here, but another great candidate. I believe it's, again, I want to make sure that I get his name right. It was another progressive, Jumaane Williams. Yeah. So we got a few great progressives that are running today. I think there's another one, but I don't have her name. So I'm not sure. I don't want to give out fake news or anything like that. But a lot of great progressives that are running. And today's the day. Today's the day to vote. Now, of course, it being New York, which has some of the worst rules for elections, the most restrictive primary elections, already we have seen reports of people being deregistered. The same thing that happened back in 2016. In fact, there are Twitter threads about it. Voter suppression happening in New York right now. People that registered as Democrats that got re-registered to independents or Greens. People having to put out provisional ballots. Nomiki Konst, formerly a reporter for TYT Network, and a friend of mine, someone I consider a friend and a great reporter, she was kicked off the rolls. So she's not even on there. She had to fill out a provisional ballot. So this has been happening to a lot of people, and of course happening to a lot of people who were formerly independent or green and had switched over to vote for Bernie, for example, in the primaries. And then, of course, somehow they find their registrations switched back. There's some shady stuff going on in New York. And understand that this is a gigantic primary. Now, if you're looking for what I think is going to happen, look, I'm not a good prognosticator. So take this with a grain of salt. But from what I've seen so far, I think Zephyr Teachout has got a pretty good chance of becoming the new AG for New York. However, I do think Cuomo is probably going to win. So that doesn't mean don't go out and vote. Do go out and vote, especially now that there is some electoral fuckery possibly going on. That makes it even more important for you to get out your vote. But I'm just saying that I think that Cuomo probably has a better chance. Although, look, even though there are polls showing Cuomo like 40 points ahead, he's not acting like he is 40 points ahead. So it might actually be closer than the polling suggests. But nonetheless, I do think that she will likely perform. Cynthia Nixon will likely outperform Zephyr Teachout for her last run against Cuomo. But I think Cuomo will end up winning. But again, I hope I'm wrong. But that's just what I see happening tonight. Nonetheless, I think this is going to be a pretty good night for Cynthia Nixon. I think she's going to get a pretty good percentage of the vote, and that's going to help propel her to running for another office. So that's just my take on that. I don't know what's going to happen. It should be very, very interesting tonight to see the vote. But I am hoping that Cynthia Nixon takes away the win. Jumaane Williams also taking out the win, and of course Zephyr Teachout. I think she would be an amazing attorney general. So anyway, now let's get into the stories. So we got a breakdown here. We are going to talk about Donald Trump and his recent tweets on Hurricane Maria. We also have a disastrous story that's sort of related. We have less than 2 years to avoid climate change. Oh boy. Then we've got a couple of NRA TV stories. Dana Loesch being Dana Loesch, which include Thomas the Tank Engine and Botham Jean. So you're not going to believe what they say about Botham Jean or the Thomas the Tank Engine story. Insanity. And then we have Laura Ingraham. Her brother is actually speaking out against her. Fun. So look, we got a fun show here today and a very exciting primary to watch later tonight. So very, very interesting stuff. Okay. All right. So let's get into it. Let's go into Trump and his stupidity. Okay. All right. So President Trump is lashing out at Democrats over the reports that nearly 3,000 people died in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria, which of course is due to the president's or the administration's incompetence. Now, the president actually released this statement on Twitter. Quote, 3,000 people did not die in the 2 hurricanes that hit Puerto Rico. When I left the island after the storm had hit, they had anywhere from 6 to 18 deaths. As time went by, it did not go up by much. Then a long time later, they started to report really large numbers, like 3,000. Well, that's kind of what happens after a storm. When you go through and you examine what happened, because there were a lot of things that were destroyed. But no, okay. He says, no, 6 to 18. Actually, it was about, what they settled on was 64. Now, that was not correct. It was actually incorrect. Now, here's the thing. I think Donald Trump is really stupid. In fact, I think he's got some sort of mental disorder. So I don't think he realizes that it takes time to count and factor in things like lack of clean drinking water, lack of food, illnesses that couldn't be treated because of lack of health care, because of lack of infrastructure. For example, the hospitals didn't have power for quite some time. So, okay. Now, in fact, the Puerto Rican government, after conducting a study with researchers at George Washington University, significantly revised its estimates of deaths related to Hurricane Maria upward over the summer. So they actually looked into it, and they looked into things related to the hurricane, like all those different factors. And they're like, yeah, the official death toll is way, way off. And look, here's the thing. The official death toll, it isn't even 3,000. It's actually probably higher for factors that this newest study didn't account for. But of course, that made Donald Trump very, very unhappy, since, of course, it's only been a couple of days after he gave himself tremendous credit for doing what he did in Puerto Rico. In fact, I want to throw to that video.
Probably the hardest one we had by far was Puerto Rico because of the island nature. And I actually think it was one of the best jobs that's ever been done with respect to what this is all about. Puerto Rico got hit not with one hurricane, but with 2. And the problem with Puerto Rico is their electric grid and their electric generating plant was dead before the storms ever hit. It was in very bad shape. It was in bankruptcy, had no money. It was largely, closed. And when the storm hit, they had no electricity essentially before the storm. And when the storm hit, that took it out entirely. The job that FEMA and law enforcement and everybody did working along with the governor in Puerto Rico, I think, was tremendous. I think that Puerto Rico was an incredible, unsung success.
Incredible, unsung success. By the way, I just want to go back to where he talked about the power generating plant. It's a power plant. You can just call it a power plant. That's what it is. Oh no, the power generating plant. It wasn't. It was a disaster. It wasn't working. My God. Puerto Rico had problems before the storms. That's absolutely true, right? And that problem, guess what, is something that maybe your administration could have actually helped with, but you didn't. No, you didn't do anything for it. They got devastated by 2 storms. And then your relief efforts were shit. But no. It wasn't me. I did one of the best jobs. In fact, I want to give myself an A+. An A+. So, of course, now what happens when reality, right, which is the unstoppable force, hits the immovable object, which is Trump's ego? Well, this happens. He further tweeted, "This was done by the Democrats in order to make me look as bad as possible when I was successfully raising billions of dollars to help rebuild Puerto Rico. If a person died for any reason, like old age, just add them onto the list. Bad politics. I love Puerto Rico." The revised death toll, done by researchers, is not real. It's fake. It is a Democrat plot to make Donald Trump look bad. Bad politics. Hashtag sad. And you know what's funny? Or I should say, not funny, actually really scary, is his followers. They eat it up. Oh, look, I saw tweets saying, yeah, fake news. Oh, George Soros. No, literally, blaming George Soros for the death toll, or at least making up the supposed death toll in Puerto Rico. Man, look, everything is a conspiracy, you know? Deep State, Obama, Crooked Hillary, they're all trying to make me look bad. Those 3,000 people, they didn't actually die. They didn't die from the hurricane. Oh, no, the Democrats, they made it all up. Now, look, if you guys got family, you guys got friends that died as a result of Hurricane Maria, you know what the president just said? He just told the entire nation that those people don't exist. Not true. They're part of a liberal plot in order to take down President Trump. This is the president of the United States pushing bullshit conspiracies. And why do they do that? To justify the president's incredible incompetence. And not just the president, of course, but the administration's incompetence. Just like Katrina. Now, the thing is that Puerto Rico was worse than Katrina. But what did Donald Trump have to say about how difficult it was? And look, it is an island, as Donald Trump loves to remind us, that is surrounded by big water, ocean water. Well, maybe you should have had a plan. You knew that the hurricanes were coming. It's not like you can't turn on the TV and look at a weather report. You can see that it's coming. You can see that it's coming. So maybe you planned for it. Or maybe even before. You planned for it because, well, golly gee, look at there. There's going to be hurricane season. And there are people that are forecasting that it might be actually pretty bad. So, I don't know, let's shift some resources towards it. Well, they didn't do that. And you know what? There's another hurricane coming. There's Hurricane Florence. Two tropical storms that are following Hurricane Florence. You know what he did to prepare? Took $10 million from the operating budget of FEMA and put it towards detention camps. That's what the president did to prepare. If you're in North Carolina, South Carolina, you're in that area that's going to get hit by this hurricane, look, if you can, get out of there. If you can't, if you want to ride out the storm, then I hope you have a lot of supplies, because I can almost guarantee the government ain't going to come help you all anytime soon. Okay? And I'm worried about you guys. So, and look, I got people that I know, people that I care about down in that area. So, I have a personal stake here, because there are people that I care about that are in the path of that storm. And some of those people can't get out if they wanted to. So, man, look, I told you, Donald Trump can never take responsibility for anything. He is literally incapable of admitting that he has made any mistakes. No, everything is either A+, it's the tremendous, it's the greatest, or it's somebody trying to make me look bad. It's the Democrats, it's Crooked Hillary, it's Robert Mueller. No, the only one making you look bad is you. This man is a narcissistic, incompetent, disgusting human being. That's Donald Trump. Let me ask you something. You MAGA guys, you proud of this? You proud that he's erased at least 3,000 people from existence to serve his ego. Is that what you think a president should do? Deny reality? That's what he's doing. I mean, I guess he already denies climate change, so why not? Why not just keep going with that delusion? What's next? Sandy Hook? Look, hey, I know Alex Jones does. He denies Sandy Hook. And he's one of Donald Trump's buddies. So I guess maybe that's what's next. He is a pathological liar. And if you're proud of that, that's a problem. Now, you can bend and twist yourself into believing whatever the hell you want personally. All right? But you know what? Facts matter. And you cannot turn your back on them whenever it suits you. Because in the end, it's going to come back and bite you. Speaking of facts, we've got disaster. So there is bad news for those of us who want to avoid the worst impacts of climate change. It appears the clock is nearly running out. Now, this is from Antonio Guterres. Now, he is the United Nations Secretary General, and he basically told leaders this week that the world has less than 2 years to avoid runaway climate change. In his speech, he said, if we do not change course by 2020, we risk missing the point where we can avoid runaway climate change. He goes on to continue by saying climate change is the defining issue of our time, and we are at a defining moment. Scientists have been telling us for decades, over and over again, far too many leaders have refused to listen. Now, I'm pretty sure he was pointing directly at Donald Trump, because President Trump thinks climate change is a hoax perpetrated by the Chinese. So, yes, this is one leader that does not listen to climate change and does not accept reality. Now, you also have Republican leaders here in the United States, an entire political party who runs on a platform that basically does not include climate change, says it doesn't even exist. And you have senators that go up and take snowballs into the Senate chambers to try and prove that it doesn't exist. This is the modern Republican Party. And of course, it's no surprise that when you have politicians that do go out there and take snowballs into the Senate chamber or say ridiculous, stupid things like, ooh, I don't know, carbon's actually good for greening the earth. Well, then, of course, you're going to have it led by complete ignoramus. That's what you have. And so, of course, America, we are part of the problem. We're a big part of the problem. Now, that's not to say that India and China and some of these developing countries who are relying on a lot of coal power to enter, supply their cities with energy, aren't also a problem. But unlike us, they're actually in the Paris Climate Accords. They are actually doing something, as opposed to the United States, which is doing nothing. We're doing absolutely nothing. Now, these are our leaders. Now, look, there are other leaders in other places that refuse to do anything necessary to combat climate change, or at least to do what's necessary. Now, Guterres on that said, the time has come for our leaders to to show that they care about the people whose fate they hold in their hands. And says, we need to rapidly shift away from our dependence on fossil fuels. I think he's absolutely right about that. I've said before, we need a Marshall Plan to transfer us over to a 100% green renewable energy economy. That's what we need to do. Not only will we actually be doing something good for the environment, but that transition is going to create jobs. So there's going to be a ton of jobs being created if you put if you start using more alternative energy. Now, a start to that, of course, is the Paris Climate Accord, which actually limits carbon. Now, Donald Trump pulled America out of it. And I remember criticizing that accord for not being binding and also not going far enough. Guess who agrees? Guterres. He said these targets were really the bare minimum to avoid the worst impacts of climate change. But scientists tell us that we are far off track. So we had this climate accord, non-binding agreement, that we would all reduce it to try to keep our, temperatures within 2 degrees Celsius. We have not been doing it. Now, America pulling out, that was big enough, but the rest of the countries as well hold some responsibility. Now, according to a UN study, the commitments made so far by the parties to the Paris Agreement represent just a third of what is needed. So you have to understand that we cannot do barely the minimum to stave off catastrophic climate change. Why? Well, I think we all know the reason why. It's because fossil fuel companies pay off politicians to prevent change. Look, here's the thing. These oil companies, these fossil fuel companies, they're big corporations. And right now, our government is basically an oligarchy. So these companies hate competition from solar energy and, of course, wind power and alternative energies in general. And so, of course, you have an administration that gets funded by these companies who then, of course, will go and block these other forms of energy. The tariffs on solar panels is a great example, shipped over from China. China is actually now a leading manufacturer in solar panels. We could have done that here in the United States, but of course, our politicians instead doubled down on coal. Now, coal is not only dirty, but it's also more expensive than wind. Solar is actually getting more efficient. Battery technology is getting better. Wind, as I said before, cheaper. And scientists are even looking into other forms of energy that provide no waste products and efficient energy production. Despite that, here you have a situation where the fossil fuel industry and its lobbyists control our politicians with money. And of course, that is literally destroying our chances at survival. A company's profit, a CEO and shareholder profit, is holding our world hostage. We need a green revolution, and we need it now. But of course, whenever you say something like that we need to shift over, well, look, I'd love to, but it's too expensive. There are too many costs. And don't get me wrong, it is a serious undertaking, and it will cost money. But to say that our current situation comes with less cost would be absolutely wrong. In fact, Guterres addressed that by saying over the past decade, extreme weather and health impact of burning fossil fuels have cost the American economy at least $240 billion a year. The cost will explode by 50% in the coming decade alone. By 2030, the loss of productivity caused by a hotter world would cost the global economy a total of $2 trillion. So consider this. That is the costs of not doing anything. They're going to be far greater than if we actually do something. That's the reality. He said, finally, what we still lack, even after the Paris Agreement, is leadership and the ambition to do what is needed. And that's the problem here. There is no political will. No political will. We refuse to do what we're supposed to do, what we need to do. We are stuck with fossil fuels, not because there aren't alternatives, not because there's things that don't work. We have plenty of other options, but what we continue to do is we continue to do the status quo. Coal, oil, natural gas, and fracking. We cannot afford to do that anymore. People do not understand the danger that we are putting ourselves in, what we are doing to the planet. And what we do to the planet, we do to ourselves. And if you trash the planet, well, we're trashing ourselves too. And we have to make a change. We need that green energy revolution. We need that Marshall Plan for the environment. and we need it now. Okay. I'm going to take a quick break here. We will come back. We got more show for you guys, including NRA TV putting KKK hoods on Thomas the Tank Engine. I will explain everything after the break. Fascinating story. Stay right here. We'll come right back. Please send your super chats or consider signing up to be a patron. Patreon.com/TYTNation. We'll be back right after the break. Welcome back to the show. Around the Nation, right here. Jeff Waldorf here with you. Okay, so subscriber drive numbers. All right. We are at a total of, hold on here, 87,391 subscribers. We're trying to get to 100,000, so long way to go. But thank you to everyone who has hit that subscribe button. Also, patreon.com/TYTNation. That helps the show continue. Okay. No super chats, so I guess we'll get to the rest of the stories. All right, guys. Let's dive in. Let's talk about racist trains. Strange story. Okay. All right. The NRA just recently did a segment slamming a kids show for promoting diversity. Now, in the segment, which aired on Friday, NRA spokeswoman Dana Loesch criticized the new show Thomas and Friends for adding new characters, including a train named Nia from Kenya. Now, I want you to take a look at this insanity. Watch.
Save the best for last, and I mean by best, it's worse because everything is awful all of the time. This is horrible. This is Thomas the Tank, right? The long-running kids show about really weird anthropomorphic trains. Can they be if they're trains, though, or is that just animals? Anyway, they answer to this authoritarian maniac named Sir Topham Hatt. right? My youngest loved this show. I can't stand this show. It's creepy. Anyway, they've decided that the next stop is Virtue Town. Thomas the Tank is now bringing gender balance to the show by adding girl trains. Seriously, one of those trains, Nia, will be from Kenya to add ethnic diversity to the show. And which that, by the way, that's where it gets really strange to me, because I've looked at Thomas and Friends at their pictures and I see gray and blue. Am I to understand this entire time that Thomas and his trains were white? Because they all have gray faces. How do you bring ethnic diversity? I mean, they had to paint what I guess they thought was some sort of African pattern on the side of Nia's engine. I mean, how do you bring ethnic diversity to a show that literally has no ethnicities? Because they're trains. They don't even have skin pigmentation. Where was there some concern that the show had racist undertones? Because, I mean, Sir Topham Hatt clearly is white, but the trains? I mean, I'm looking at this picture, and I'm really, really struggling to understand how in the world there isn't any diversity in any of this. Oh. Was it because, I see it, it was the white hoods and the burning train tracks. Okay, fine, fair point, fair, I get it. Thomas the Tank Engine has been a blight on race relations for far too long. Clearly, this is overdue, right? Seriously, with trains? With trains. Were they white? Seriously, I mean, I know that those had hoods on them, but were they, because all their faces were gray. I didn't know. Anyway.
Read about one thing. Everything is awful, including Dana Loesch. Wow. They're good God, man. There is so much that is disturbing in that video. Much less the trains with the KKK hoods pretty much put it over the top. But here you have somebody, I mean, look, just imagine, okay, being so angry at an attempt to include diversity that you go into a rant, a 2-minute rant about anthropomorphic trains. I mean, really, this is the state of NRA TV. Look, and in an effort to prove that you're not a white supremacist, ironically putting hoods on all said trains. This is your big issue of the day? Those damn virtue signaling companies, I mean, having to go and introduce a person or a train that is supposed to be from Kenya, and oh my God, we're having a problem here. No, you know what? Here's what's actually happening. It's not virtue signaling. It's, look, Mattel owns the brand. Guess what they want to do? They want to sell toys. That's what this is about. It's about marketing. So, look, you bring out a train that's supposed to represent a portion of your viewer base. In this case, young girls of color. You do that in order to appeal to them. So guess what? You can sell them things. That's all cartoons are. Like, that's all that they're designed for, is to sell you products. It's about marketing. Why do you think Colin Kaepernick was featured by Nike? So that they could sell shoes. But see, here's why Dana Loesch is mad. These examples, this is corporate America basically siding with the so-called SJWs, right? This is proof that Dana Loesch and the far right have lost the culture wars. And this is how they respond. Oh my God, how dare these companies do what they can to represent other people through their characters. They're trains. They're just trains. Yeah, they're trains. And yet for some reason, Dana Loesch is so triggered that she has to bring it up to outrage her presumably racist audience. They've got nothing left but rage. They are the aggrieved minority. And it's sad / hilarious. Now, Mattel, which owns the Thomas the Tank Engine brand, told the New York Times that it has, quote, always been a priority for companies to promote inclusivity. You know why? Because more inclusivity means more of a customer base. More customer base means more profit. Corporations, they have a duty to maximize profit. This is actually one of the good ways they do it, by appealing to more people. by saying, oh, hey, you know what? We have possible customers over here. Maybe we should include them, be more inclusive so that they buy our stuff. That's actually a good thing. I actually think that's positive. Because you know what? Not bad at all. But Dana Loesch sees it as they're no longer pandering to white people. Now, in response to this particular segment, Mattel said, we are not associated with images that promote hate and denounce any images of our brands that are being used to convey a message not in line with the values of the company. So this is them saying, Dana, cut it out. We are trying to appeal to other people who are different. And your aggrieved whiteness is not appreciated. We don't want it anymore. I'm telling you, this is a great example of how they have lost the culture wars. Once you lose the corporations, it's over. And they have. And they have. They've lost Nike. They've lost a lot of the cartoons. They've lost a lot of the big companies, fast food companies. I guess they still have Chick-fil-A. But that's about it. You had the guy with the castle, Papa John Schnatter, getting kicked out for being a racist, being fired. They're losing the culture war. They're losing the culture war. And look, all they have left are these aggrieved white people like Dana Loesch. It's the last bastion. And look, as a white male, someone who should be angry, who some see should be angry about this, no, I think more representation of my Black, Asian, Latino, and etc. brothers and sisters is actually a wonderful thing. I do not feel threatened by it at all. And if you're one of those people who do feel threatened by this, then maybe you might need to look inward and see why you feel that way. Okay. I'm not done with Dana. We got more. All right. Now, NRA spokeswoman Dana Loesch, in my opinion, is a loathsome human being. She gets paid basically to spew propaganda on behalf of gun manufacturers. But she is also ardently pro-police. So what happens in a situation where those two beliefs, the ability to want to sell guns to everybody, and Blue Lives Matter, what happens when they collide? Well, recently we found out when she aired a segment on Botham Jean. Now, he's, of course, somebody that I've covered as well. He's a 26-year-old black man who was shot and killed when an off-duty officer, Amber Geiger, went into the wrong apartment. That's according to the official story. There's a lot in this story that doesn't add up, that doesn't make sense. So now she decided to have Jeff Houston, who's an NRA Carry Guard Director of Operations, on her show to talk about this, and they get into a discussion about how it's strange. So let's get to that right now.
One of the other things that seems kind of extraordinary to me, when you go when you go into somebody's house, things smell different, right? I mean, granted, the lights are off. It's still going to kind of look different. It's going to kind of feel different. It's going to smell different because it's just, there's different stuff and different people that live there. And I would just think, I don't know, maybe I'm assuming too much. And granted, 15-hour shift, that's a long shift. But still, your senses hit you before anything else does. And that, I don't know, maybe I'm missing something, but that seems that would obviously wake you up.
Yeah, you would think so. And you know, okay, 15-hour shift, yeah, that's a long day. And, you know, the job that the police officer has is often strenuous and can take a toll on you. But look, after 15 hours of hard work, one should not be in such a state of, you know, discoherence that you're walking in not knowing that you're in your own place. So there's just something strange going on here. Not happy with this, obviously. You know, a guy is dead that did not need to be. So the Rangers will do a good job of investigating this, but it's just a tragic thing.
Right.
Okay. So far the discussion hasn't really gotten crazy, right? It's actually like they're trying so hard to be like, no, cops, man. You know how much we love cops, and But oh man, this situation is you gotta admit, it's kind of fishy. Super fishy. And I get it. I agree with that. Nobody just walks into the wrong house or apartment and doesn't think that there's something wrong. But let's be honest, we don't know what actually happened. Witnesses have pointed out that those doors cannot be left ajar. That is Geiger's defense. Apparently her newest defense is, oh, the door was open. Oh, but if the door was open, and which it can't be, by the way, then why'd you put your key in? But if you put your key in, you would find out that the key didn't actually fit the lock. There's so much stuff that doesn't add up, right? But even so, even if it was ajar, which is impossible, those are heavy doors, those slam shut, right? But even so, even if she's going to continue to go with that defense, because I don't know, maybe there was a doorstop or something, keeping it open, well, that would be suspicious. And then you just walk in, and then you see a shadow or something, or silhouette, and then you fire. That's apparently her story, right? But look, I'm going through all this because, again, there's a lot that doesn't add up. If you want to have a discussion on that, which is what they were doing, perfectly fine. Okay. Look, another piece of evidence that they talked about was witnesses have said that they've heard a woman's voice shouting, "Let me in." A lot of strange things going on here, right? So if they had left the discussion at that, well, I wouldn't be doing this segment. It'd be fine. But here's where it starts to get a little controversial, a little problematic. Watch.
You know, this could have been very different if Botham Jean had been, say, he was a law-abiding gun owner and he saw somebody coming into his apartment. I mean, I don't think there's any context in that the action would have been justified. I mean, if I see somebody coming into my house and I'm not expecting them and they're walking in like they own the place, I would act to defend myself. And this could have been very differently had he actually had a firearm on him. Maybe it would be a different individual. She might be the one carried out.
I understand what she's saying. If only Botham Jean had a gun. And then what? He would have shot a cop. Or possibly would have shot a cop. Or would be dead anyway. And then they would blame him. Oh, look at that. See, he's got a gun. He had a gun. He threatened my life. I'm a police officer. What are you going to believe? Look, here's the thing. If it's between Blue Lives Matter and a paycheck from the gun lobby, well, Dame Loesch, I think, says pretty much, give me that money. I'll take it. Again, we don't know what happened, right? But my take is that you can't just walk into someone's house, shoot them, and claim, well, I don't know, it was my apartment. That's not my floor. But you should have noticed that. You should have noticed that. Her take is that, well, I guess he should have had a gun. He might still be alive if he had a gun. But then there would be a dead police officer still in uniform. And remember, Botham Jean is a black man. What do you think that story would have been? If her situation had happened, Dana Loesch should be talking about, how dare this black man shoot this woman, this police officer? How dare he? What a thug. You don't think that would have happened? Look, it's not as if the NRA has come to the defense of black men who have had guns. There was that man that was gunned down in his own car. And he was a legal gun owner. Shot by police. Did the NRA say anything about that? No. And the NRA has a history, and right-wingers have a history of shutting down the gun rights of African Americans. Funny story. Ronald Reagan was governor of California. And Black Panthers, well, they said, I have a right to have guns. I have a right to carry around guns. So they did, and they carried some guns into the state capitol, which was perfectly legal at the time. Ronald Reagan put in gun control so fast, it would make Wayne LaPierre's head spin. Why? It's because scary black guys, guns, can't have it. But when it comes to white people, well then, we're going to have all the gun rights in the world for them. This is a smokescreen. They don't, look, they actually don't believe in gun rights for African Americans. But of course, this is a nice little cover because look, the NRA actually does want to sell more guns, and they don't care who they sell them to. So here's Dana Loesch stuck in the strange position of like Blue Lives Matter or my fat gun paychecks. Well, fat gun paychecks it is. Look, this situation is not a situation of who should have been armed. I actually want to know the facts. I actually want to know what really happened. Why she was there. Why she was banging on the door to get in. Why she really shot Botham Jean. Because the story that we're getting right now, I don't know. I don't believe it. I think there's definitely more to it. And we gotta wait till the facts come out. But as far as she goes, the NRA take is always going to be self-serving and always going to be gross, as evidenced by what we just saw. Okay. Quick break. We'll come right back. We got the last story. We got Laura Ingraham and her brother. Little family feud going on here. We'll read some super chats when we get back as well, and do another count on the subscriber. I can't think of the word now. Subscriber push. All right. So be back in a minute. Stay right here, Round the Nation. Everybody, welcome back. Told you this quick break. Round the Nation right here. Jeff Waldorf here with you. All right, so got a couple of super chats. Ronnie Lama Richardson didn't make a comment, but thank you for the super chat. Thank you for supporting the show. Coffee Crow asks, so when cops start getting shot entering homes, is she going to be held responsible for basically advocating for exactly that thing happening? To me, she's making that suggestion. It's absolutely insane. You are right, Coffee Crow. That is exactly what she's doing, advocating for shooting policemen who enter homes. And I know she'll probably walk it back and be like, oh, no, that's not what I mean. That's not what Blue Lives Matter. But that's why I say she's stuck in a hard position. Do I continue to advocate for unlimited guns for everybody? And you can shoot whenever you feel threatened? It doesn't matter what context or who it is? Or do police lives matter? That's the situation that they find themselves in. And it's not an easy position for somebody to be in. All right. Edward Norton asks, I was just thinking it can't be that Edward Norton. Asks, favorite sci-fi books, government you would like to live in? Oh, Star Trek. Obviously. Utopia future? Yes, please. And then he asked, Deep Space Nine, the Next Generation, or Battlestar Galactica? Okay, so as far as shows go, on the Star Trek franchise, DS9 is actually my favorite. So I know that's controversial. I love TNG. You know, I like them all. But if I had to rank, DS9 would be first. That said, would I want to live on the station? Probably not. That station, a little bit dangerous in that area. But as far as TNG, again, being on a ship, kind of dangerous. I'm not sure if I would take that job. Although, again, if you're going to be a reporter, which is what I want to be, then Deep Space Nine would be kind of an interesting posting. As far as Battlestar Galactica, love the show again, the reimagined especially, but wouldn't want to live in it. You're basically constantly on the run from Cylons, murderous robots that want to blow your face off. Not interested. Not interested in being the survivor, the sole survivors of humanity. Not great as a concept, not fun to live through, I imagine. So there's your answer on that. Okay. One more super chat here from The Natural Progressive. Just to thank you. No, well, thank you. I appreciate that. You guys help keep the show going. So thank you for that. Subscriber count. What are we at? 87,392. Working towards 87,400. So you guys seeing this, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, share the stream. Give us a like as well. And all that stuff absolutely helps. Okay. So let's get into the rest of the stories here. Okay. Let's see. There was just something. There you go. Motion sickness. Would you get motion sickness in a spaceship? That's what inertial dampeners are for. Hello? They dampen the inertia so you don't actually feel it. Oh, you know what? Secular Satanist. No. That's the wrong one. Mr. Stelios 0010 says DS9 was a ripoff of Babylon 5. So here's what's interesting, right? It is a similar idea, but here's the thing. I'm a fan of both. So I don't like to see them fight over, who came up with the idea first. I know B5 was conceived back in the 80s, right? Back in the late 80s, there were drawings of it, and they were looking to actually get this, show going. And I think they originally tried to pitch it to Paramount, which didn't take it, which instead went with Deep Space Nine. That said, if you paid attention to both series, you had Majo Roddenberry have a very significant plot point within Babylon 5. Yes, I'm fucking nerding out because this is my thing, right? So you have both series creators trying to make nice with each other, right? So you had Majo Roddenberry in a major plot point. She played the late Emperor Turhan's wife. And somebody who was, I think, a seer reading Londo's future. That was a very interesting scene and an excellent crossover. And then later on, you had the guy who played Lanier go over and play a character on Star Trek in, I think, the Siege of AR-115. I may be wrong on the episode name, but that's what's happening, right? So, look, yeah. Both shows, I don't think they're competition with each other because I think they're unique in different ways. Even though there are similarities. They do have an arc. And they do have, like I say, Babylon 5 has a 5-year arc. And Deep Space Nine also has an arc. They're both on space stations. So I can understand why you have, but when you think about it, all media is a ripoff of everybody else. So, again, I like both. Yes, Stargate, Farscape, of course. We can't forget about all that stuff. All those great shows. I miss 90s sci-fi, to be honest with you. Whatever happened to it? Like, it's all gone. Like, 90s, I think the 90s were like the best years for sci-fi. And then, what happened? Like, I'll tell you what happened. 9/11. So before 9/11, I know this is going into a weird tangent. 9/11 happened, and everybody, their eyes went to the floor instead of forward to the future. After 9/11, that's when you started seeing a lot of the post-apocalyptic stuff. And yes, Firefly, that's another good example, right, of good sci-fi. So, look, I better get back to the show, but I'm nerding out here, and I'm losing people. Okay. Anyway, let's dive in. Let's get more stuff done, and then we'll wrap up the show. But thank you for giving me a chance to show my super nerd side to you guys. Did I mention I love you guys? Because I do. Best audience in the world. All right. Let's see. All right. What was that? Okay. Hold. All right. Now, Laura Ingraham's brother is now speaking out against the Fox News host in an interview with the Daily Beast. And also, he's been speaking out on Twitter. Now, this is Curtis Ingraham, who is the older brother of Laura, told the publication repeatedly that he believes that his sister is, quote, a monster due to many of her beliefs. Now, he's also been using his Twitter account to criticize her and to get companies to boycott her show. Now, quote, he said, my sister's repeated mean-spirited, flippant, and insensitive remarks makes me, her brother, question her very humanity. Your continued sponsorship is disturbing, to say the least. And he tags a bunch of different sponsors to Ingram's show. Now, Curtis had apparently encouraged advertisers to boycott that show following her comments about Parkland shooting survivor David Hogg, and apologized to LeBron James after his sister mocked the NBA star's criticism of Trump by saying that James should, quote, shut up and dribble. Because that's not racist at all. Entertain us or shut up. Lovely. Now, it's not just that, but he's also given insights into Laura's past, which is interesting. Now, he wrote on Twitter that she had once mocked a black college classmate by speaking, quote, jive. He shared that one of Laura's adopted immigrant children were calling him Dummycrat. He pointed out that their grandparents were Polish immigrants and said that his sister was influenced by their late father's alleged sympathy for Nazis. See, that is a piece of information that I had no idea, but kind of makes sense. Like, her father was a Nazi sympathizer and a massive right-winger. And so she grows up to be essentially the same. In fact, he tweeted August 9, 2018, we grew up with an abusive alcoholic father who was a Nazi sympathizer. Like father, like daughter. This was the familial soil that gave bloom to my sister's anger. Well, look, what do we keep saying here? They have nothing left but rage. They're angry and they're fearful. That's what the Republican Party, the modern Republican Party, is now. They used to be a party that at least had some ideas. This year, some of those ideas were wrong, but they had an identity outside of anger and rage. Now they're essentially like the Sith. Give in to your hatred of the immigrant. They're coming to take your jobs. That's what they're about. Make no mistake. That is the modern Republican Party. They have nothing left but anger and rage. And that's anger against immigrants, which are not stealing jobs, which are not destroying the country, but they don't care. African Americans, same thing, right? Liberals, you name it. You name it. They have nothing but rage and disdain. This is from the party who, by the way, claims that, oh, no, we value facts over feelings. Really? Because the only feeling that I seem to get from you is that you're just in a constant state of anger, of hatred. No, they're angry, they're deeply hateful, but there's more. In a telephone interview with the Daily Beast, the soft-spoken older brother criticized Laura's show, described her personality as, quote, destructive, and characterized her as generally, quote, extremely angry. There they go again. Quote, she's very smart, she's well-spoken, but her emotional heart is just kind of dead. And you see it in her face when you see her on TV. She is ready to destroy. She does not listen to understand. She listens to respond, and her response is always an attack. So this is an illustration of who they are. Smart people who only listen to things to formulate a way to destroy someone else or to destroy something else. This is the way they think. This is what their anger, this is what their hatred leads them to. And it's exactly why she's on Fox News. Again, never to understand, always to attack. Never to hear a different point of view. But always to attack, always to destroy. And look, you want to look at that? Look at any interview on Fox News where there is a progressive or where there's a Democrat, a liberal on with another host. Their only point there, the only reason they bring those people on, and I'll look to the Kyle Kulinski interview where he was on Fox. The only reason they bring people on is to destroy them. And for a long time, Republicans would be able to do that because the Democrats would actually try to not win the argument. They would not fight back. They would roll over. Now you have Kyle. Now you have other progressive hosts going on these stations, going on these channels, and actually fighting back. And they're like, well, we don't know what to do with these people. In fact, you have progressives all over the country that are running against Republicans that actually attack back, that hit back when Republicans attack them. And they're not used to it. They're like, oh my God, what are you doing? You're hitting back at me? And then, of course, they become the victim. That's what happens, right? But here's the thing. The whole point of that was to win. And look, their audience feeds on fear and anger. And so that's what they continuously feed them. And of course, they have to do that by setting up someone to attack and to destroy. It's propaganda 101. And in order to be someone who constantly attacks and destroys the other, you have to not have a heart. You have to not care who you're attacking. That's why she mercilessly goes after shooting victims for wanting to change gun laws. Not banning guns, just doing modest changes to gun laws. Doesn't matter to them. Attack and destroy. We have to destroy the libtard. That's what that is. Now, Curtis isn't like that, and we're not like that. We don't want to destroy people. We want to make things better. We want to make the country better. Now, Curtis says the same thing. He's like, look, I'm not out to hurt my sister. I'm not out to destroy her. I just want to point out how much of a hypocrite she's being. Quote, the reason I'm sharing these details is because of what is happening in our country. I feel like a bit of a whistleblower in trying to unveil hypocrisy. Our country has been thrown into this divisive state, so now I feel like I've got to speak out. I've got to speak out for my own sanity. Now, he also said that he didn't always believe that his relationship with his younger sister would be adversarial, even though that she had traditionally held political beliefs that he disagreed with. Now, at one time, Curtis said he and Laura were very close, going on vacations together. You could look it up. You can find the pictures of them smiling and sitting next to each other and all that. But okay, here's the thing, right? So they spent time in Washington, D.C. They shared personal details about their lives. They were a family, even though that they had some political differences. The difference now is that it's gone to an extreme. Now, this sounds like a familiar story to me, right? Especially in this Trump era, right? I've heard a lot of stories of people that can no longer be around certain family members that have cut people out of their lives, family and friends, because of voting for Donald Trump, right? And some of you guys have shared your own stories with me. And some of you haven't, but I'm sure there's a lot of you out there who have had to cut someone out of their lives because of political disagreements or things like that. And look, there are political differences that people are going to have, of course. And you can get along with people who you disagree with on some issues. Like, for example, oh, no, I like tax cuts for the rich. Well, okay, I disagree with you. I think that's idiotic to continue to give rich people more and more money. But hey, you know what? At least you're not a terrible person at heart. You're just a temporarily embarrassed millionaire. You're wrong, but I still love you. I can have disagreements like that. But when the disagreements get into this other person being okay with locking up children in cages because they're immigrants, because they're undocumented, well, there's no situation where you can look at that person and, for one, not feel sorry for them because of the hatred that it takes to get to that point. But look, you can't be around people like that who think that that's a great thing to do. Lock up children in cages or bar people from bathrooms. Now, for Curtis, his line was LGBT rights. And as you're going to see, it's because he is a member of the LGBT community. And she has done terrible, terrible things for the LGBT community. Quote, as a student at Dartmouth in the 1980s, Ingraham had run the school's right-wing newspaper, the Dartmouth Review, which had been known for its controversial statements about race. Oh, already great. She infamously assigned a reporter to attend and secretly record a Gay Students Association meeting, in which some students who were closeted shared their experiences. Now, the paper published excerpts and quotes from the meeting, which ended up outing at least one student and labeled gay students with offensive slurs. Now, think about that. So here is a persecuted minority, gay people in the time, and it's 1980, right, in the 80s. Instead of sending a reporter into this to learn what it's like and report sympathetically, right? No, she sent that person in there to destroy these people, to crush these people, to out them. You know what happens in the happened in the 1980s to gay people? Nothing good. Nothing. It's not like coming out now, right? Which is like, especially in the celebrity world, celebrated, right? Oh, hey, this person's gay. It's great. No, back in the 1980s, you would get harassed, beat up, sometimes even murdered. And look, it still even happens to this day. So that is a terrible, terrible thing that she did. And look, she didn't have any qualms with doing it back then. Now, interestingly enough, back in 1997, she appeared to have reversed course. In 1997, she apologized. She attributed her changing opinions about issues, including same-sex marriage, to her experiencing witnessing her brother's loving relationship with his longtime partner, who died of AIDS. So her brother, a member of the LGBT community, is like, hey, look, this is what a gay relationship's like. Is it destroying your marriage? No. Is it destroying your life? Is it destroying the fabric of society? No. It doesn't do any of that. And she, for a minute, she was like, hey, you know what? You're actually right. Maybe I need to reevaluate myself. Okay. Well, at the time, he told the Daily Beast that, quote, he was moved by that piece. But, again, something changed. He said Laura became more religious in subsequent years and began to waver in her newly empathetic positions on LGBT rights. Now, let me be clear. You can be a religious person and not be anti-gay. I know plenty of religious people, good Christians, who are not hateful people, who are good people, who are like, hey, man, that's the way God made you. I ain't hating. You can do what you want and we love you anyway. It doesn't matter to us. So, again, you can be a very religious person. You can be very accepting of LGBT folks. But Ingraham didn't go in that direction. She went to the hateful version, spread by the right wing. And in private conversations with her brother about issues like same-sex marriage, she would at first say things like, I would agree to disagree. Now, of course, later on, you can just see what she feels about same-sex marriage. He told the Daily Beast to him that Laura's change of heart on LGBT issues and gay marriage was a betrayal. Quote, he recalled thinking, that goes against my ethics. You're destroying me. It's hideous behavior. That's what I'm trying to unveil here, the hypocrisy. Families first. I know about gay rights. My brother is gay. It's all a sham. Now, finally, he wants to say, he says that he is saddened by how his sister's outspoken punditry has destroyed their personal relationship. He said, quote, it's not easy for me. My heart has been bruised, has been a kind of irreparably bruised, but I'm trying to illuminate and shed light on her hypocrisy. Now, like this story actually hits me pretty hard, right? So you guys know that I lost my sister back in June, right? Now, I absolutely love my sister. We had the same views on politics. You know, she was hilarious. She voted for Bernie, by the way. Wanted to write him in 2016. But she, you know, always took care of the family. She's a great person. And, you know, it sucks that she's gone. It hurts that she's gone. But when I think about what Curtis is going through, and his sister is still alive, but is an absolute monster, I think maybe this guy's got it worse. This guy, again, she is hateful, callous, hypocritical, monstrous. And that he has to take the position of basically outing her and saying, no, this is what you are. This is what my sister is. She is a hateful person. She is a monstrous person. I think that is almost worse than actually having lost your sister in the way that I lost mine. Because that relationship, I don't think it's ever going to recover, right? Now, I'm always going to have great memories of my sister. But Curtis is going to be constantly pushing back on her hatred, knowing that there's a good chance that they are never going to be a family before or anymore. This is what hate does. It tears families apart. This is what being a hateful person gets you. It's sad. Okay. Heavy story. But yeah. All right, guys. Let me see if I have any super chats here. Give you a final subscriber count before we head out the door for the day. We are at 87,396. Can we get 4 more? We get 4 more. Hit 87,400. It is a long climb, but you know, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there, guys. And it's thanks to you. Okay. All right. No super chats, but thank you for the ones who sent those before. Please like and subscribe. Look out later for the Patreon roundup in case you missed any part of the live show, or if you miss any of the clips that we're going to put up later. We'll have that roundup up for you later tonight when all the clips have been released publicly on YouTube. So we'll do that. And we'll come back. We'll have a great show tomorrow. Please leave your suggestions if you have any via Twitter. ATN on TYT. That is how you can tweet me. So, all right, guys. Thanks a lot. Love you guys. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, everybody. We'll see you guys tomorrow.